We cannot
We're
hear
going.
you in the room.
John?
All right, John, if you're ready.
That sounded garbled. Do it again.
Are you ready, John? Is it gargled again?
Yeah, it is garbled. But I am ready, but I don't know if you guys are ready.
We're live. We're ready.
All right.
3, 2, 1.
Well, we're going to convene the county board meeting for March 2nd, 2021. If you'd arise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to
the republic
for which it
stands,
one
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all. Okay, item 2 would be amendments to the agenda. I'm not aware of any amendments to the agenda. Item 3 would be to approve the minutes of February 16th, 2021. Oh, I should announce that we're all here at this meeting today. A couple of us are remote, and we'll take all votes by roll call. Should have announced that earlier, but anyhow, we'll take a motion to approve.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of February 16th, 2021.
Okay, Commissioner Wolf made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second. Beard will second.
Commissioner Beard second. Any discussion? Okay, JJ, if you take the roll.
Commissioner Whitman-Brecky?
Aye.
Commissioner Wolf?
Aye.
Commissioner Beard?
Aye.
Commissioner Beer?
Aye.
Commissioner Ulrich?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, could we ask Commissioner Wolf to turn his microphone on? I can hardly hear him.
Oh.
Okay.
How about now?
Yep.
Here, I hear you now. That's good.
We're on to item 4, which is recognition of interested citizens, and this is limited to items that are not on the agenda and usually limited to 5 minutes per person per subject. Speakers are asked to come to the microphone for the benefit of the viewers at home. Do we have anybody in the room that wants to address us, or anybody online? I don't think we have anybody online, but in the room? Seeing none, okay, we'll move on to item 5, which is our consent agenda. These are deemed as non-controversial and generally pass as one motion. I'll read the consent agenda. 5.1 is to approve the renewal application for 3.2% malt liquor license for Holiday Station Store 246 in Jackson Township for 2021. 5.2 is to approve the renewal application for 3.2% malt liquor license for J.C. Shakopee in Louisville Township for 2021. 5.3 is to approve the renewal application for Scott County Intoxicating Liquor Consumption and Display Permit for Minnesota Harvest LLC in St. Lawrence Township for 2021. 5.4 is to approve payroll processing of personnel actions. 5.5 is adopt resolution 2021-11 certifying final approved appraisal, appraised value and authorizing acquisition by eminent domain proceedings for County Road 27. 5.6 is adopt resolution 2021-33 authorizing final payment to Valley Paving Inc. for the 2020 rehabilitation pavement project on various county highways. 5.7 is adopt resolution 2021-36 awarding a contract to Cone Inc. for the 2021 Marshall Transit Station Elevator Modernization Project in the amount of $115,595. 5.8 is adopt resolution 2021-37 approving amendment number 1 to grant contract number 177018 with the Department of Human Services to fund family group decision-making services. 5.9 is adopt resolution number 2021-39 approving receipt of grant funds from the Minnesota Department of Health for immunization for vaccines for the rapid administration of COVID-19 vaccination in the amount of $144,072 and amending the 2021 budget to incorporate the grant proceeds. 5.10 is to adopt resolution number 2021-45, amending resolution number 2021-2, appointing commissioners and other county officials to boards and committees for 2021. That is our consent agenda. Do we have any items that you wish to pull for separate discussion? If not, we'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Okay. No discussion.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Just real quick, I think probably by now people know my disdain for eminent domain, but I also understand it's part of the Constitution, so it's kind of one of those two-pronged deals. And I had thought about pulling 5.5, but I'm looking through the glass and looking at Lisa Freeze, and we did have a discussion on that, and I know that they are diligently trying to settle those takings and partial takings that need to happen to get Highway 27 through. So. And I know the staff is always working hard to try to get those settled. And I'm looking at, do we have 3 new ones since this RBA came out? Or, yeah, 3 new settlements since this RBA, which I'm happy to see that. And I know there's others that want to go the attorney route, which is their right. So, so with that, I am going to support the consent agenda as presented.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second before us. JJ, you take the roll.
Commissioner Whitman-Brecky,
Aye.
Commissioner Wolf,
Aye.
Commissioner Beard,
Aye.
Commissioner Beer,
Aye.
Commissioner Ulrich.
Aye. Motion carries. We're on to 6.1 is to receive a COVID-19 update.
Good morning, Commissioners. Commissioner Ulrich, thank you. JJ, can you pull up my slides, please?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm having a little issue with my mouse here.
No worries.
Well, while we're waiting, I will just say we're very proud of the work that you're doing and your team is doing and all the staff that are participating in these clinics. The feedback we're getting from the community is overwhelmingly positive. We're just really appreciative and thankful for all you're doing. I think every commissioner would probably want to chime in here, but if you want to say anything, do it now. But yeah, we're just really pleased and thankful.
Well, thank you very much, Commissioner Ulrich. It really is both a challenging time for public health as well as it's our time to shine. We've been planning for these for a long time. They may not be perfect, but we're giving out vaccines, and the feelings at the clinic, there's a lot of happy people there. Even the staff, it's a lot of pressure, but we've been making, I actually would say it's fun. My staff might disagree, but it has been fun. And it's also been an opportunity to meet so many of our community members. And I personally really enjoy that. So I'll tell you where we're at today. And you can interrupt for questions or wait till the end. Next slide. I'm going to talk a little bit about the state as well. This is just some state data overall. About 804,000 people have had at least one vaccination, with 406,000 completing both doses. Overall, throughout the state, 45% of people over 65 have had at least one dose, and that's really been a primary target population due to the number of seniors that have very negative impacts of COVID. The state has set some goals for us. They would like 90% of the vaccination of the vaccine being given out 3 days after its receipt, and the 7-day goal is to have 100% given out after it is actually arrives. And so statewide, you can see where we're at. We're at with about 89% overall throughout the state. Next slide, please. And this is just broken down by the people who are disseminating the vaccine. You can see, I'll just point out local public health is, I'm sorry, my numbers are appearing on my screen a little bit too small, so I'm going to make this a little bigger for myself. Overall, throughout the state, local public health is at about 98%. Some of the data is a little bit behind, but overall public health is really meeting the mark as far as the 3-day goal. Next slide. Sorry, I've lost visual. Okay. This data is actually from 224. I have to submit my slides pretty early. And as you can see, Scott County Public Health, we were at about 11%, and this is actually Scott County in general. 15,924 have received vaccines, so 11% of our Scott County residents have had at least one dose. 5.3% have received two. This was as of 224, and as of 227, that number actually has jumped up to 18,237 have received one dose, so 12.6% of our population. And for two doses, 6.6 of our population have received both the first and second dose. That's 9,591 people. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Lisa, you may be telling us this on another slide, but will we have these numbers in front of us, that, this 11% or the 15,924? Can you tell us how many of those have been distributed by Scott County Public Health?
I can. That is on another slide.
Okay, well then I'll wait.
Thank you. That's coming soon. Thank you, Commissioner Brecky. As of today, as of the 27th, 50.2% of our 65 plus population has been vaccinated. Next slide, please. This is just our targets, and you can see where Scott County Public Health is. It's on the slide. It's really small, but we're at about 98% meeting our 3-day goals, and 100% for our 7-day goals. The 3-day goal is a little tricky because we've had some delays in vaccine shipments, which causes us to have to change the dates of clinics, which really confuses our population. So we do tend to hold a little bit back, not use all of our vaccine if we can. So we have some to start Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in case our vaccine is delayed. But we're at 98% meeting our 3-day goal, 100% meeting our 7-day goal. Next slide, please. So here's our COVID vaccinations to date. I've done this by weeks on your slide here, just so you can see how much has come in per week, and then which is the dark bar, and how many shots were given. In this slide, the total is we've received 8,000 vaccinations, vaccine, and we've actually given out 8,186 doses. That may lead you to a question of how is this possible when we've given out more doses than we received? And the answer is we're just that good. In actuality, many of the vials contain 11 doses if we use one of the types of syringes, because it's very precise, and we are able to get out an 11th dose out of several of the vials. So we've been able to stretch that out to a little bit more than we've actually received. Next slide. I've just put some demographics. We have enough numbers here. Most of our vaccine has gone to the 65 plus, about 40% as of 220. We do, however, this week we're doing probably the most vaccinations to date in 1 week. We'll do about 3,500 vaccinations this week. We have a second dose clinic today of about 800 folks. We have a clinic open on Wednesday, and that's targeted at seniors and a few remaining healthcare workers. And we have the ability to do 2,000 on Wednesday. So please get the word out. The link is open on our website for our seniors. And we have invited anybody that was on our current wait list, and many of the seniors in our community through Facebook and our website, senior housing, et cetera, have been notified of the clinic. And we also are partnering this Friday to complete our school-based personnel, almost complete our school-based personnel. We'll have about 200 left, and this is in partnership with the Shakopee, Midwalket, and Sioux. And they will be running the clinic for us, with us providing some support, and they're actually also providing some vaccinators for us at our clinic on Wednesday. So a really good partnership there. We're really excited about that. And then you can see some of the other populations that we've been targeting, about 21%, 50 to 64, 25%, 35 to 49. These probably represent, although I don't have it broken down, those are probably where our healthcare workers are fitting in. I have some additional demographics on the next slide. This is first dose administered by race. Right now, we're sitting at about a 92% white. This is compared, I believe, to our 88, 89% of our communities of color in Scott County. We're at about 88, 89% white. So we're getting closer. This, I think, is also representative of the fact of who the target groups have been, because they've been predominantly the healthcare workers as well as the seniors, and many of our seniors in our county come from they're white. So as we extend our populations out, we'll start to see a shift in this, particularly with the upcoming clinics. Will be targeting low income and multiple different sources as soon as the state provides us with guidance on who our next target population group is. Next slide. This is just representing the occupation. It's not surprised many of those that we vaccinated are retired, because we are targeting the seniors, and the next large group has been the healthcare providers, followed by education. We have not yet gotten to the childcare. We're finishing up educators, and our childcare will be our next large group. Hopefully we'll be able to do them next week. We're just waiting to hear how many vaccines we should have next week. Next slide, please. So here's our current status. We're hoping we will probably move on from the senior population once we hit about 70, 75%. That's a pretty high number. I think we might have seniors. I mean, most of the seniors are getting vaccinated. That's probably been the highest percentage of each group. So 70 to 75% will probably stop doing targeted activities, but we know we have about 16,000 people in the county that are 65 plus, and hopefully after this week, I'm guessing we'll have about 60% completed. So we'll be close, but we'll continue our efforts until we get as many who want to get the vaccination done. So as we move forward, seniors will still be invited to clinics, but it won't be the only target group. Finishing up again E12, and then we'll move on to childcare, and in partnership with SMSC.
Quick question here, if I could. Lisa, do we know in places like clinics and I know pharmacies are doing vaccination at targeted groups, but I'm talking about when clinics would get a vaccine for general populace, and same with pharmacies, where pharmacies might be able to do general population vaccinations. Do we know when that's coming at all?
Unfortunately, Commissioner Ulrich, I do not. They are required to follow the same target populations that we are. However, I don't believe they have at this time have received a lot of vaccine, particularly in pharmacies. With the next target population group, and I think that's my next slide. Next slide. Oh, no, sorry. Can you go one more? It's like it'd be easier to answer the question. No, I'm sorry. One more.
I can wait.
There we go. No, that's okay. I'll answer your question now. So here's the latest guidance. This just came out on Monday or last Friday. In COVID time, I'm not quite sure. So we are on the yellow section here. Winter, February, March. Here's the current target populations. As we move into the spring, the target populations are adding and shifting to people that have that are high risk conditions and of lower age, but they may have more high risk medical conditions, and the conditions will be listed very specifically in our guidance. So 2 or more high risk medical conditions that are younger, or 45 to 64 that have 1. That primary responsibility of those groups will be the clinics and possibly the pharmacies, but for sure the clinics, because we don't have healthcare information, and we wouldn't be asking a person to prove what 2 healthcare conditions that they have that would make them qualify. So I believe as this rolls out, this is where the clinics will take a primary role, and we will move forward whenever we can on the targeted essential workers, the essential frontline workers. So that will include possibly county staff, postal workers, the food processing and manufacturing. I have not received the full guidance, but not all of this will be local public health. So that's where, as soon as we move into those phases, that's where clinics and pharmacies will be getting more doses.
Mr. Chairman, Lisa, I got two questions.
Yes, sir.
One, I was notified that the Minnesota Department of Health, if you go on their website to apply for a vaccine appointment, not only do they ask you about your age and your work history and things like that, they ask you to identify your gender and your sexual selection or preference or things like that. Are they making that a target group for vaccination, or what's the purpose? Or have they even explained it to you folks what they're looking for there?
I haven't had a full conversation, Commissioner Beard, with the Department of Health regarding that. Gender, I mean, we know that I think that they're looking there for different health outcomes between men and women. Sexual preference, I am assuming that they're looking at equitable access in that situation to make sure that
the equitability deal. Okay.
Yeah, that would be my guess. I could check for you if you like.
No, don't kick that rock over. That's fine. It's I saw it and I thought, what in heaven's name are we up to now? And why does that have any effect on the outcomes of public health at least from the COVID-19 perspective? Okay, related to the vaccines, I see Johnson & Johnson's single shot vaccine was just approved for emergency distribution. Is that coming into our pipeline anytime soon? Or will that be on the free market, open market?
That's a very good question, Commissioner Beard. We will have options for it to be able to utilize that. We talked just yesterday whether we wanted to incorporate that into our vaccination planning. Right now, we're going to stick with the Moderna until further notice. It does have a higher efficacy rate, as well as I believe that it's likely that if people want to get Johnson & Johnson quickly and then still get the the Moderna later, that means we would end up doing 3 shots for folks. But right now, we're going to stick with Moderna. We have increased our capacity to also receive Pfizer through a partnership with SMSC, Shakopee, Midwaukee, and Sioux. So we will have
Pfizer's one has to be really cold, right?
Correct.
And
correct.
Moderna is a little more moderate for handling.
Correct.
How about the Johnson & Johnson? Does that require any kind of special refrigeration or handling? Do you know about that?
Unfortunately, Commissioner Beard, I don't know the answer to that question, but I could find out.
Yeah, I haven't followed. In the reading I've done, everybody's excited that it's out there, but I haven't seen anything about the handling or technique or anything like that. So, okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure yet. I mean, it is attractive because it is only one vaccination.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
Thank you. Can you go back 2 slides, please?
Mr. Chair, Leslie was going to pipe in on something here.
Oh, Tom's mic.
Yeah,
Lisa, I think everything on Johnson & Johnson, it says one of the benefits of it's refrigeration, that it has a lifespan that exceeds in its normal refrigeration. When I've followed some of the articles on the CDC on it.
Thank you, Leslie. That's good to know, because that would actually be very helpful for us.
And so, Mr. Chair, Lisa, did you say we're not preferring the Johnson & Johnson at this point?
Currently, we're sticking with the Moderna, Commissioner Wolf, at this time.
So if they were going to send 20,000 doses of Johnson & Johnson, we would say no.
That if we actually had the opportunity to get 20,000 doses of Johnson & Johnson, I'm not sure I could say no to that.
How about 10,000? I'm just saying, I don't think we shut off any, because I would actually prefer the Johnson & Johnson. I know it's got the whatever 70%, but it reduces your symptoms and everything down so much that it's really, when you look at it and read about it, it's really actually not a bad thing. So.
A lot of it would be related to capacity, Commissioner Wolf. The only time we've been emailed about do we want Johnson & Johnson was yesterday to see if we wanted to get some doses of Johnson & Johnson this week to do vaccination. It would be on Friday, and we would have to do vaccinations Saturday and Sunday. Currently, we already have things planned on Saturday, as well, I believe, as well as we are very full with clinics this week. So a lot of it is a matter of capacity, and it wasn't a large number of doses. So we would, I think, as the situation, everything changes daily. So that decision could be changing tomorrow. Right now, we have quite a bit of Moderna coming in. We actually, in partnership with Minneapolis this week, we were supposed to get our second doses yesterday. We have a 700, 800 person clinic this week, and our doses did not arrive yesterday. And I was able to borrow 500 doses from Minneapolis. And now we're going to be getting like 3,400 doses this afternoon. So we have quite a bit of vaccine this week. But we certainly are, the book is not closed on that. We are certainly open to relook at that. And a lot of it will just depend on the situation. I just want to reiterate, we have our public information line up and running. We have our COVID hotline at 952-818-3730. We have hired staff that are answering those calls as well as returning calls within 24 to 48 hours. It's been pretty quick. We also can receive direct emails on that, and we have pre-recorded messages. On our public health website, we have information about COVID and our COVID vaccines. We now have our screening tool up and ready to see if you qualify for vaccines at this time. If you do qualify and there's a clinic available, a link for that will automatically pop up and take you directly to where you can register for a COVID vaccination. And again, we're doing 65 plus who live in Scott County and the remaining healthcare workers who have not yet had an opportunity to get vaccinated, who work in the county. Next slide, please. This is just up to February 14th. I have to get the updated data soon. But as you can see, starting in January, these are just calls to the hotline call. This does not include calls directly to my cell phone or my desk phone or any of my other staff. And this does not include the copious amounts of emails that we have been receiving. But as of February 14th, in 1 week, received 842 calls related to information on COVID. And it just keeps going up and up and up. Next slide, please. I think that might be it. Oh, that was our current slide. Next slide. And that's all. We do again have a clinic going on today. This is second doses, one for tomorrow for seniors that still has plenty of space. I think we have 1,300 seniors signed up. If by this afternoon we're not full, we may open it up to our childcare workers instead of having just a separate clinic for them. But we have quite a few staff ready to go. We have many vaccinators that will be here tomorrow, including some medical reserve corps. We've tapped into them as well. And almost daily, I get emails from our either retired healthcare professionals in the county or other healthcare professionals asking if we need assistance, which is really, really heartwarming. They are coming out and coming back, especially the retired folks. It's really nice to have them at the clinics and sharing their knowledge.
So you, Mr. Chair, so Lisa, you have spaces for tomorrow, you said?
We do.
How many?
Yeah. A lot of spaces. Yep.
Oh,
I could tell you in real time
and people should call that number that you put up there earlier.
Yep. Or they can go directly to our website
online.
And do a self-screen. Again, 65 plus who live in the county. This morning, I believe we had 1,307 appointments booked. 1,312 now. Appointments booked, and we still have 700 more slots available. And with we could actually do a few more because I have 500 extra doses this week. But again, we're probably at 2,000. We're probably at our capacity for tomorrow. We have about 15 to 17 vaccinators, so over a 7 to 8 hour period. But we do have plenty of slots available for tomorrow. We are also going to some low-income senior residents this week and doing some more seniors, and that'll be on Thursday and Friday, and getting some more of our seniors done in their homes, particularly in housing that has people with either mobility issues or lack of transportation.
Mr. Chair, Lisa, I just want to echo Commissioner Ulrich's comments earlier. I've only heard positive things about the clinic. I appreciate the ability to have the hotline. I've referred several especially senior citizens, to that number who, got overwhelmed trying to sign up online, that type of thing. This isn't an action item, but I think it's good for all of us to know and communicate. Over the last week, when I've listened to many of our legislators, on podcasts or speaking or via media, they talk so much about the vaccine going out through our healthcare system and clinics. And I feel like county public health has not gotten the recognition for the hard work that's happening. And I hope our citizens know that, their tax dollars are being spent wisely. Staff are really stepping up and doing this. That's why I was asking the questions. It appears that a significant probably significant majority of the vaccines administered in Scott County have been administered through public health. And I think that's just important to call out, realize that we've been able to be very efficient, very effective, and get it done. I'm unsure why it seems that many of our legislators in the know think that it's happening through clinics. So I guess I just want to celebrate public health and thank you. And I think this is just an example to show that you were ready to take this on and do that. And that's the whole purpose for a county public health department. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Brecky. I also want to point out it's not just our public health staff. We have senior leadership team who are also assisting with this and have really worked with us to make it a really smooth process. Again, Medical Reserve Corps volunteers, Shakopee, Midwaukee, and Sioux, some temporary staff. It is really taking, it's quite an effort, and we're very happy to have everybody at the table working to support us.
Yeah. When you said it's fun, I can imagine that, but it's also in the context we know of long hours and long and tiring hours. So I hope you're all taking care of yourselves and kind of balancing life. And but thank you for your really incredible efforts.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Lisa, quick question, if I may. Here we are in March of 2021. It's been a year. It feels a lot like it. Most of these meetings we've been, and certainly you've been trying to catch a fly with chopsticks, and that'll probably only play with a certain age group. But now we're kind of into the pick and shovel work as we have been in the last few months. The question for you today is, besides it being spring in Minnesota, with all of these needles going into arms, are we looking down the road and are we seeing some rainbows and unicorns? Are we seeing some light at the end of the tunnel? And if so, how many watts?
Thank you for your question, Commissioner Beer. I'm going to look at I'm going to look to my magic 8-ball over here and shake it up and see what the answer to that question is. If I had to guess, I'm saying that I would guess we'll be doing vaccinations to the end of the year, with only about 20,000 of our population being vaccinated. We still have quite a few more to get through. As a system as a whole, a lot will depend on vaccine availability and shipments. And if there's a possible, with some of the variants that are coming through, we may need to do a third booster. So hard to say. I do see the light though. I'm so excited that at least, hopefully by the end of this week, we're looking at 55 or so, 60% of our seniors will have the opportunity to have a vaccination. Another big thing, we did 900 educators last Friday, and you should have seen that room. They were skipping and taking photos and jumping, like literally jumping for joy that they're getting their shot. The light at the end of that tunnel here is a little bit of going back to normal, getting kids back in the schools, which is a huge piece for continuity of operations for our businesses to have people being able to go to work and not having to have their kids at home doing virtual learning. So there is some light in that respect. We'll get back to a new normal sooner than later, soonish. I know my answer is a little bit wishy-washy, but again, you could ask me that question tomorrow and my answer could be completely different because the situation is so rapidly changing. But vaccine provides the solution. It's just going to take us a while to get all the vaccine into the arms that it needs to get into.
Well, and I just also wanted to add, my gratitude to not only your team, but also to those that, you're paid to be good, right? Others are good for nothing, so to speak. For those that have really, cream rises to the top. And there's been a lot of folks that have really put in extra hours, going above and beyond, serving the public, which is a noble thing. So thank you to all of those folks who have gone above and beyond. It's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bear.
All right, any more comments or questions? Okay, thank you again. We're on to item 6.2, which is to receive an update on the EO 2099 Business Assistance Program. This is Lisa Breeze and who else? Are Lisa and Chris in the room? Are they getting ready to present? Okay, good.
Just doing a little screen juggling here, but everyone's here in the room.
Was my mic on when I read the item?
Right there.
6.2 or not? It was, okay.
Yep. We can see it here on the screen.
Good morning. Chris and I are here today to provide an update on the status of the county relief program for both businesses and landlords.
Now, we're not seeing the presentation. We're seeing a, looks like your Outlook or something.
Oh.
Or
What's up?
we're not seeing the presentation.
Yeah, they're seeing the.
Okay. I'm gonna let JJ back and see if we can get this.
There it is. It finally popped up. Okay.
We see it.
There.
So just a little recap on history. On November 20th, 2020, the governor issued Executive Order 2099, which ordered the full or partial closing of a variety of businesses, bars and restaurants, their indoor service, gyms, fitness centers, and health clubs, convention centers, and indoor and outdoor sports and entertainment venues. And that executive order was actually rescinded on January 10th, 2021. It allowed for partial openings of the businesses that were affected by that executive order in November and dealt with their capacity and hours and things of that nature. You'll also recall that the state legislature in December met and authorized in a special session funding that was distributed to all of the counties for these businesses affected by the pandemic and in particular this executive order. Scott County, as a result of that, received about $2.7 million worth of funding from the state, of which after we discussed it, we allocated those funds out to two areas for grants to administer. The first one was for businesses that were directly impacted by that executive order, and also businesses that were indirectly impacted by that executive order. So, for example, a cleaning service that maybe worked with restaurants primarily, or a supplier of goods to those businesses that were impacted. As a result of that, we allocated out, with your direction, 2.5 million to those businesses. And then the state allowed for 2.5 administrative costs. We worked with our CDA staff and Next Stage, the contractor that we worked with the CARES program. And at the bottom of the slide, you'll see a recap of what we actually allocated out in that program. We allocated out just short of $2.4 million. We provided the administrative costs based on the actual grants that Next Stage wrote for a total of just under 2.5 million. On the landlord side of the equation, we started out with 350,000 based on your direction, and worked with our contractors that had previously helped us with the housing programs, the Housing Link Group and the CAP agency. And we ended up dispersing, or will have dispersed probably by the beginning of next week, a total of $463,937 in grants. And you'll note that the administrative cost is a little bit higher for the landlord program because of the complicated way that we have to do verification and working with both the two vendors. So what I'm going to do is do a quick run through of each program and share with you the status. The business relief program is all complete. All funds have been dispersed and the contractor's been paid. And in fact, yesterday he submitted to us the report that we need to submit to the state. So we opened our applications on January 4th, and we had the review of the payments completed by February 25th. Generally, or overall, there were 307 unique applications. There were 110 applications that applied that for a variety of reasons were ineligible. Primarily, it's because a lot of the business who applied were maybe affected by the pandemic, but not directly by that executive order. Within the applications that were considered eligible, there were 16 unfunded applicants, and a quick recap of them is 3 of them were unable to show indirect impacts. We actually had a team, Chris Harder, myself, Stacy Craigs, and Lee, and a couple of people from his staff actually reviewed all of the indirect impact applications and made decisions on whether or not their submittals made the justification. We had one new business that was submitted that we couldn't fund because they didn't have any revenue documentation. We had 2 businesses that withdrew, and we did kind of probe them about why they withdrew, and a couple of them were restaurants who actually were doing pretty well during the pandemic with the takeout business and felt that others should be getting the funding, so they backed down. We had 2 businesses in LeSueur County in the New Prague area. We had 5 applicants who just after they made application did not respond to our repeated inquiries to get additional information. And the 1 business was not funded because of a tax lien. So overall, we funded 181 businesses in the business program. And as we mentioned, the business types that were allowed to be funded under this program were gyms and fitness centers. We had 31 of them. Other businesses that principally sell goods, this was the indirect business group that we funded under this program. Recreation or entertainment facilities, so this would have been perhaps a movie theater or a community center, restaurants and bars, and then youth sports activities, which were also closed during the pandemic. We know that you're always interested in seeing how the funds were dispersed countywide. All of the cities had applicants. We did some things to outreach to businesses, this round that we hadn't employed before. We actually set up the libraries and made sure they were aware of applicants for those businesses who potentially didn't have internet access. The city of Belle Plaine, for example, actually helped with that library staffing the day that the application opened, and their community development staff assisted a couple of the business owners with their applications. The other thing we did too is we worked with the Shakopee Diversity Alliance. We had a meeting in which we had about 6 or so businesses attend, where we explained the process with them. And then we had language line available for businesses that maybe were non-English speaking. To my knowledge, no one actually accessed that, but we did make it available for those businesses. Overall, of course, Shakopee had the most businesses funded through the program. The 3 northern cities, of course, had more applications and funding go out to them than the smaller rural cities, but everyone received funding. We had 18 townships or 18 applications within the townships. And for a little bit further breakdown of which townships had these businesses, I believe all but 2 of the townships actually had applications for restaurants or these types of businesses that were impacted by the Executive Order 2099. So we have good representation across the county for the business applications. Under the Landlord Assistance Program, we started this also on January 4th. We actually started the wait list as of January 6th because we had so many applications, and then eventually we quit taking applications. We waited a while as we were trying to see how the new federal program was going to shake out and whether or not counties were going to be distributed money by the state that they were really receiving for rental and landlord housing assistance. But the state took a track of doing that centrally rather than providing money to counties such as Scott County. Some of the counties that were larger actually received money directly. So we were unsure how the county was going to how the state was going to handle that. Overall, we received 247 applications. There were 79 unique property owners or managers that applied for a total funding request of $576,971. We processed these in 2 batches. We're still in the process of processing the second batch, and that will be completed by the end of next week. But in round 1, we funded $291,330 in grants to 125 renters with 53 unique property owners or managers. We have 110,000 that we're currently processing right now. Our contractors, Housing Link and CAP Agency, are in the process of checking on rent status on this waiting list and doing the applicant verification and getting the paperwork in order, with the expectation they'll be distributing those grants to all of the landlords by the end of the week of March 8th. We also try to share information with you about how the landlord property owner program is dispersed countywide. I want to note that there is a correction here. The Lakeville applicant is actually in Open New Market, and I didn't catch that until I was reviewing the slides this morning that I had not corrected that. So all of the landlord program ends up being primarily within the cities. Makes sense because most of our rental properties are located within our cities. And of course, Shakopee had the most applicants with 20 owner managers requesting payments for 51 renters. Belle Plaine actually also had a number of applications from 7 owner-managers and 25 renters. And then Prior Lake was the next highest in terms of disbursement. So at this point, we will wrap up the rental housing program next week, and then we'll update the data by city for you and provide a crib sheet for you with how the funds were distributed. So as you go out and talk with the communities that are in your district, you'll have that information available. With that, Chris and I are available for questions.
Mr. Chair, Lisa, on that one sheet there, I don't know, it was one of the first ones, you know, I can't remember how many people wanted money or whatever, but were they upset that some of them didn't get it? You know, what was if you go back a bunch there.
Are you talking about the business program?
Yeah, yeah, see that, yeah. So, but not eligible, okay. So, and then the 16 unfunded, were some of these people upset about that, or could we see a list of those people, or?
With regard to the, some of them are kind of cut and dry. If they weren't in Scott County, obviously we weren't going to fund them.
Yep.
The non-responsive, we tried several times to get them to respond.
Mm-hmm.
With the indirect impacts, we had a process where first we said, you didn't demonstrate it to us.
Okay.
They had a second chance to come back and demonstrate to us and provide documentation. So we gave everybody a second chance in that particular category. So I'm assuming they would have liked to have got a grant, but oftentimes they themselves acknowledge that maybe they didn't qualify under those rules. So I don't think we've had a lot of feedback about businesses that were terribly upset about it. I think the one thing we did hear is that a number of businesses continue to have impacts that were due more to the longer pandemic. And since we had focused this funding on specifically the EO 20-99 event, we were not able to assist those businesses, nor did we have enough money in the end to really make an impact with probably those businesses.
Were some of those really close to like qualifying? You know what I mean? Of those 110, but not eligible. Were some of those close to applying by a couple percent? You know, if their business is only down.
For the ones that were not eligible, it meant they weren't a restaurant or an indirect type of business that had impacts. They were maybe another type of business altogether.
Oh, okay. All right.
Lisa, I have a question in regard to the rental and landlord monies. Let's say in the future a renter and a landlord show up at court, you know, eviction process because of unpaid rent. Will these monies be actually related to a specific renter? In other words, I think in essence, aren't we really paying for the renter through the landlord? And so the landlord should be giving credit of whatever months were paid through this program so that, you know, if they show up at court, they shouldn't be claiming months that they receive reimbursement for. Is there a way that that's assured?
So we had a couple of steps with the renters. The landlords were required to get statements from the renters and do verification with their particular renters that they were applying on behalf of. So we have both the renter statement and we have the landlord statement. We also had a piece in the application where the landlords were committing that this was payment in full for the unpaid rents, and so therefore they wouldn't go back on these particular renters for that time period. So we did have both of those steps. We will have a list of the applications funded both through this program that we did with the state money and also with the CARES money, and renters will have that at their disposal if they end up in court. But we really that's a part of the process that we, you know, at least made renters aware of, that they have that ability to demonstrate that the rent was paid on their behalf.
Thank you. That's very good. Other questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So remember the good old days of last fall, early winter, when this CARES money just started pennies from heaven kind of thing, and they didn't really have any guidance, but they said, hey, don't break the rules. And we asked, what rules? Well, we don't have the rules, but just get rid of the money, but don't do it wrong. Well, what? Wait, what? So now here we are, spring of 2021, and how are you two feeling like things are going? Because we rushed to you guys rushed to get this money, not rushed, well, we had to be rushed in a careful, cautious way. Is there any pitfalls we should be aware of looking down the pike? Any states or other jurisdictions saying, oh, remember that money we gave you and told you to get rid of? Yeah, we want some of that back. Is there anything we should be aware of here?
Mr. Chairman, there is a bill that's being monitored by, I believe, both AMC and MICA that takes a look at potentially having counties go back and document if some of those funds would actually be FEMA eligible, submitting those to FEMA, going through that process, and then turning those FEMA funds back to the state. I'm not sure that that's going to make it very far. There is a big push to not support that bill, and that the benefits are not worth the time that would have put on the local agencies, the 85 counties besides Hennepin and Ramsey, to be able to do that. If you remember right, when we started down this and we were all in the EOC last March on Saturdays and Sundays and trying to document everything for FEMA, several of the counties did provide documentation to FEMA for some of their PPE and things like that, and were actually turned down because I think the federal government kind of made it clear that they were going to have one source, and it was going to be the CARES money and not to come back for other federal dollars in this. So it's still to be, I think, determined and discussed, but I do not believe that there's very much support from any of the local governments to have to go through and redocument and go through that process, which is not easy. Obviously, the other one that we're watching, and at some point potentially we are going to have to sit down and talk about, is the act going through Congress right now, because that again would directly allocate some funds for CARES to local units of government and to counties directly. It is an enormous amount of money that they are talking about. And certain agencies obviously have been impacted by revenue loss far greater than other types of governmental units have been. So I'll have to continue to monitor that. The rules are not real clear even on how those dollars would be at this point. You know, some talk about having some housing separate from the money that is given to local agencies. And so depending how that moves forward, we're probably going to have some work sessions on that and take a look at how we would support our community potentially moving forward, but that one is yet to happen.
Mr. Chair, if I can dovetail on that, so we still are under a state of emergency, and we did that basically, well, obviously we know why we did that back then, but that still has the door open for any potential FEMA funding if it should arise based on this, but most likely, I mean, we're coming into spring in Minnesota, so if we have floodwaters, that wouldn't impact anything we're doing with that under normal conditions, would it?
Correct. That would be a separate state of emergency for a different event.
So we would still have to declare that in that, okay, all right.
I'd have to run that through Scott, maybe in the county attorney, but that is my understanding.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lisa and Chris, for this. You know, this is just another aspect of work, that critical work needing to be done. We profusely thanked those that work with vaccination. This is just as critical, that we are supporting the businesses. And I know there's been hard work and long hours here. And we're also very appreciative of all that you're doing and have done to help keep our businesses afloat, getting this money to them. And so I want to thank you as well.
Mr. Chair, could I just add, Lisa and Chris, thank you for the breakdown showing that these funds really were distributed around the county. I think that's very helpful and good for residents to know that really made it to all corners of the county. So thank you for that. And I know that didn't happen just organically, that there was a lot of work to get the word out, to communicate, to provide resources. So thank you for that.
We need to thank the GIS staff for making that possible for us. Thank you.
All right. We're on to item 7, committee reports and commissioner updates. We'll start with Commissioner Brecky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since our last board meeting, I guess that was February 16th, we had a workshop following that board meeting that we all attended. On February 18th, I participated in the AMC Legislative Conference that was held virtually. We heard from the governor, a panel of legislators, talked about the AMC priorities with them. And then that afternoon, we had the Health and Human Services Committee meeting for AMC, and where we heard from the commissioners of health and of human services. Commissioner of health, it really was a dialogue about COVID vaccines and counties providing some feedback and more input. With the Commissioner of Human Services, we really did focus a lot on the waivers that we'd like to make permanent that came out because of COVID. So there was good dialogue with those commissioners, so that was good. Also on February 18th, I participated in a meeting between some of us county folks and Prior Lake, Spring Lake watershed folks, and we'll be hearing more about that, I think, during our workshop. Also on February 18th, I guess that was a long day, we had Scott County Library Board of Trustees meeting that evening. The big news on the library front, and you may have seen it, is that all the 7 county libraries just this month have transitioned to the same electronic book resource, so we're all on the same platform. There's a lot more availability of ebooks. Obviously, ebooks became even more popular during the pandemic. The use of them has increased quite a bit. It's a good thing that we're working together, saves money on that contract, gives a lot more choices to residents. So that's a good thing. February 19th was the Dakota Scott Workforce Development Board meeting. Just heard some updates on the unemployment situation in Scott and Dakota counties, but also the need for employees and training and trying to really connect those businesses with people who are looking for work. February 22nd, I had a meeting with Representative Angie Craig's new local staff person, Minna Mohammed, just to introduce herself. We talked about especially some of the transportation issues in Scott County, and I know Congresswoman Craig's been here and looked at those and hopefully will continue to advocate on our behalf. February 22nd, met with the Shakopee Mayor and City Administrator for a quarterly meeting that was long past due, so it was good to get back together.
We lost audio.
Oh.
Yeah, her mic isn't picking up.
Talking to that other one next to you.
It's green.
Now we hear.
Or was that your way of giving me a time limit?
Get up.
Play the
You
music.
don't hear Commissioner Brecky if she's talking.
Yo, you still don't hear me.
None of those mics are working. It's all picking up over here.
How's
One
it
by one.
possible?
Okay.
I turned it back on.
Should I go over there?
No, you can, it's fine. I mean,
Oh.
if you want to be on camera, you will have
Oh,
to
well,
go here.
but can you hear me now, John?
Yes.
Okay, great. I think that brought me to February 24th, had Together We Can subcommittee meeting, really talked about family resource centers and kind of the strategic plan for the next year. February 25th was the Academies of Shakopee steering committee meeting. It was good to hear that the high school students have still really been connected to businesses, including Scott County, in their learning during this year, and really found some ways to add value. I think we had several interns within the county working, here and there and learning. So good to hear. And now that they're all going to be back in school, it'll be even better. February 25th had NACO Human Services Education Committee, Human Services and Education Committee call. Just heard about some programs going on in different parts of the country dealing with some of the effects of COVID. And then finally, on February 26th, had a MELSA Personnel Committee meeting. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the 16th, Credit River Township met. On the 16th, Prior Lake had one of their twice monthly meetings. They big presentation on the vaping in the 21 to move that age to 21 years of age, and all of Prior Lake. Many cities have already done that. On the 17th, the Insurance Committee met, and the rates look really good right now. There's the reserves have gone up, partly because people are not getting some of the things done that maybe they would have otherwise in normal times. Also that day met with the Elko Market Mayor and Administrator for a quarterly meeting. On the 22nd, the Emergency Service Board had a planning session I attended. Then there was a parks meeting after that with the House reps, to get money for our parks here in the city's area, in the 7-county metro. Met with the county administrator, Leslie Vermillion, after that. Then the WMO met. A big topic there was joining the WMO with the Prior Lake Spring Lake Watershed District. I just don't know that there's a big appetite for that at this point, although some may think differently at this point. We'll see. On the 24th, the Metropolitan Mosquito Control District, we're starting to budget for next year, if you can believe that, even though this year really hasn't started up for mosquito killing. Then Belle Plaine Annexation met that evening, talked about the asphalt plant that's over there, and on what is that, Old 169, I call it. And also there was a land kind of a split for a house and an additional property. And then on the 25th, I-35 Solutions met. And one big thing there was bus ridership is down 76%. And that's nobody's fault except that they're letting less people on the bus at this point. The Vermilion River Joint Powers Board met after that. They talked about some of the projects they're going to do this summer. Then the parks meeting, we had the Senate version. The House version was on the 22nd, but then this was the Senate version. And there was discussed that in state statute, there's something, I can't remember, it's 38 million is supposed to go to city or to the area parks here. And I think they're only getting 2 million. And so there was talk about legal action. So I don't know where that's going to go to. Someone would have to bring that up. But, for us to open up Blakely and Doyle Kennefic and do some other things, it's going to take a lot of money. And it's the same with it. And the parks right now are bursting at the seams. People are, it was said in the meetings numerous times, they're loving them to death. And I go to the parks. We bike over to the Cleary Lake. And there are people looking for parking spots many times just to get in there. So, parks are a great thing, especially since there's so many people in these in the city areas. And then Elko New Market had their monthly, one of their 2 monthly meetings that evening. One of the big things, crime is down in Elko New Market. A lot of people are at home, and there's just not a lot of opportunities for people to commit crimes. Prior Lakes, which is probably a good thing. You don't know who's at home working, so then that's a good product. Anyhow, as long as the insurance company gives you a little bit of money back for, which I don't know if will happen. Then Prior Lake City had their one of their bi-monthly meetings last night. In the workshop, they talked about pickleball courts, getting another one, and also they talked about billings for utilities and changing that up because some people are skipping out, some renters, and then they say, we thought the owner of the property was going to pay it, and the owner says, no, you were supposed to. So anyhow, and in Credit River met, there's some concerns about the broadband. Some people in the area are not getting the service. People aren't calling back, or the phone's not being answered. The website, I don't know if that's whatever. I've heard a lot of good things about the broadband. There's, somebody in the room here is actually, Commissioner Becky's actually gotten it, says it's good. A lot of people in Cedar Lake and other areas have gotten it, it's good. But it seems like there's a few areas that are maybe not that great. And then they also talked about, since they're a city, they want to put up a new logo and put up some signs possibly here. Remember, there's the election coming on May 11th. That'll be the first election for them, and then there'll be a city council. And then Cedar Lake met after that, and pretty quiet out there. Just a couple people looking for some variances on some permits. And that is the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Beard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for future reference, I don't know what microphone Commissioner Wolf was speaking into, but I heard very little of his report.
Oh.
So if he could use the powerful one, that would be great to send to future meetings. Can you hear me okay from down here?
JJ
Yeah,
says it's
good.
not my fault. my mic was on.
It was, okay. Okay, on the 19th, AMC Board of Directors met, and we got a legislative update on what was the issues are that the county should be paying attention to. I'll give you just the 4 hot topics, contentious issues they talked about. Now, this is before the budget forecast came out, but the 4 things that they're thinking are going to be most contentious will be elections and voter registration. There's a move afoot to basically make election day now an election season, and to make sure every ballots are pushed to every eligible voter, and just really kind of expand and change the traditional understanding of elections and what they mean, and that's generating quite a bit of controversy. The second is related to the civil unrest and the rioting that happened last year, and that's a big discussion over emergency recovery money and mutual aid response and who pays for that. That's being debated pretty extensively. The third one is the Clean Car Initiative. Of course, some people in St. Paul want Minnesota to be like California, and so they've got the mandate they're trying to propose, or proposing. They're not trying, they are, that by 2030 we'll only be selling electric cars in Minnesota. That's the end goal. They'll of course be negotiating off of that starting point. But the most annoying part of the whole thing, or the one that's given everybody the most heartburn, whether you're for electric cars or not, is the method of going about accomplishing it. They're trying to use the rulemaking process for something this large and this paradigm shifting, instead of using the legislative process. And that's the one that is generating the most controversy and contention. And the fourth one is one that'll probably resolve itself, but Chair Marquardt, I think with the best of intentions, is trying to reorganize the truth and taxation hearing process so that it all happens on one day and it happens in one location. And just, I don't know how that's going to work. But anyhow, they're working on those 4 issues, and those are the contentious issues from the AMC. Let's see. On Tuesday, 23rd, a chair vice chair meeting, and later that day, I attended the finance committee meeting for the CAP agency, and that was they continue to impress me with just how good they're going. Mr. Chairman, is this the clicking you're hearing?
Yeah.
That's probably me playing with my pen. I apologize. All right. On the Wednesday, the 24th, there was a mosquito control meeting, and I think Commissioner Wolf referred to that. I heard some talk about mosquito control. That afternoon, AMC had their first Tribal Relations Committee meeting in almost a year, and it was good to have that team back in play. And we had about an hour and a half meeting. I think it was a good meeting. The 26th, the Transportation Alliance Summit, where we were entertained by, or had a discussion with Chair Charlie Zelli from the Met Council and Commissioner Margaret Kelleher from MnDOT. A couple of the takeaways there that you're going to want to just be aware of. The whole emphasis wasn't on raising the gas tax or putting more money into transportation, roads and bridges, that is, although the Transportation Alliance did make a strong case for more money for local roads and bridges and the local programs. But there's a big emphasis on expanding transit and interstate passenger rail. Excuse me. So we had a vigorous discussion about, with transit ridership falling off the table, why do we, is this an opportunity to rethink how people move themselves? But no, they're pretty committed to more bus service, more BRT, and a build out of a third, another rail line once this green line that's now behind schedule and over budget. That's the one down to Eden Prairie. Once that comes online, they're talking about expanding some other things. They're apparently actually in play, and it's happening. The second train from St. Paul to Chicago on a daily basis. And there is active discussion now about expanding North Star service to St. Cloud, even though they've pretty much taken all those trains off the tracks for the duration of the pandemic. Pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure are pretty big in their discussions. At least they were in that group on at our meeting. What day was that again? The 26th. They made a big deal about structural deficit in transit funding, particularly when it comes to their ability to address equity and climate change. So I guess if more of us walk and ride bikes, it's fairer, more fair, and better for the planet. I guess that was the takeaway there. Let's see, there was another Transportation Alliance Summit on the 26th. That was the 26th, where the legislators from the Southwest Metro area got together, and I participated with Lisa Fries on making some remarks there about 169 and river crossings and the Scott County Transportation Sales Tax and the positive impact that's had on the construction projects here in the Southwest Metro. Mr. Chairman, that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Well, I don't know if we're deer pen enough because we still hear the clicking. It's kind of like somebody eating popcorn loudly next to you at the movie theater. So it's,
Mr. Chair.
Whoever's doing it, please stop.
Yeah.
Please stop chewing the popcorn.
Okay, Commissioner Beer.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Wolf has something to say.
I was just going to ask, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Beard. So you said the green line, that's basically down by from Target Field down there to down. Which one are they trying to expand?
The green line down to Eden Prairie is over. It's going over budget and it's falling behind. They're blaming it on COVID because work crews have been calling in sick and they've been running short of skilled labor and a few other matters. I think the one that runs up, they want to run up through Osseo and out towards Monticello on that Burlington Northern line. Of course, PN says, no, we don't think so. But they're trying to figure out what to do with that whole thing. And I believe that's the next line that they're talking about for light rail. There also had been some talk about one going to the northeast or the southeast down towards Hastings. I don't know if that's still in play or not, but part of the discussion was we need to keep the light rail projects on track and keep them moving so they don't get lost in what's happening right now with transit ridership and so on. Public safety on the light rail lines, particularly the Hiawatha line, has become a dire thing. It's people are staying away in droves, not because it's not convenient, but because just it's become quite a risk to your personal safety to ride the train, and they're really wrestling with those issues too.
Yeah, because what you had said about why are they going to increase some of this stuff has come up in some of the meetings like I-35. Why are we going to increase some of this stuff when it looks like even if we did get back to normal, half the people would not go back to work very often at all. And my wife is one of them. She went in 3-4 days a week. She may not go in 10, 15 times a year anymore. So yeah, she's off the road almost completely at this point. So,
well, that was brought up at this meeting. One of the Transportation Alliance members said he'd heard that Target Corp, which is a big employer downtown, has now told their employees consider the office is closed until later in the fall of this year. The governor had kind of set a target date for MnDOT employees and others in state employment to stay home through June, which is coming up in a couple months here. We'll see if he extends that or if they start letting people come back to work. But Target now has taken the cue and notified the downtown partnership that they're not expecting to let their people come back before fall at the earliest.
Yeah, and so what my wife has seen is that they're getting rid of leases at her company, and they're just they just do not need the space anymore. So, I think they better reconsider more of this stuff, at some point. So anyhow, that's my comment. Thank you.
There is an irony of this funding for these light rail. When I first started as a commissioner, they were talking about Southwest, light rail, and back then it was around $1 billion for the project. And then now, 15 years later, that's probably how many years from when they were talking about it till funding, it's over $2 billion. So they projects doubled in cost. Is it close to 3 now? Okay, close to 3, close to triple in cost. Anyhow, it's amazing. All right, that's just my little commentary. We're on to Commissioner Beer.
Thank you very much. On the 16th, as was mentioned, we had our post-county board workshops. Later that evening, had the Prior Lake, as also was mentioned, they had a public hearing for banning all flavors of vaping except for menthol and tobacco flavor. There was, I don't know, half a dozen high schoolers or so in attendance. A couple of them spoke. There were a couple of folks from Scott County. There was a judge from Scott County. I was there from Scott County. We all spoke in support of the city's ability to be able to regulate that a little closer. It was very well attended. In fact, I think I first thought I was walking into a pickleball meeting because the chambers were completely full. And at the VFW, there were some folks there celebrating, I believe, their 75th birthday of the VFW in Prior Lake. Best chicken in town. 18th, Prior Lake Spring Lake Watershed. I'll call it the water discussion. Very early on, just having discussions, nothing under the table, just folks asking like, hey, does this make sense to band together? Do we need multiple organizations? I have no idea how it's going to go, where it's going to go, but it's certainly not a land grab. It's just, I think we probably need to be doing more of that, whether it's around this or other things like, hey, is there better ways to do what we're doing? And that's all it is. No real other details to give other than that. 22nd, also mentioned the House Parks meeting, which I was able to attend that, and they are being used. We know that, some abused, but that kind of always happens. We've got some gems here that are no longer secrets, haven't been secrets for quite some time. We've got some other gems that would be great for hosting Buffalo. Did I say that out loud? I was not able to make what's that?
Haven't heard you say
Yeah. Well, if it's in case anyone has not heard that, I would love to partner with those that would want to bring Buffalo to Scott County. So I was not able to make the Senate, so interested to hear more about that offline. Later that same evening on the 22nd, we did have our quarterly, do we need air quotes around that?
Yeah, I think so.
The quarterly meeting with Shakopee, and schedules being what they are, it's been very difficult to make those meetings happen on a regular basis. So it was good to see their faces, even though it was over Zoom. Would love to see some of these move to more in person as able, and no judgment, no pressure, all in grace, but I'd love to see some of these moving face to face. 23rd, Fish Partner meeting. 23rd, IWG, which is also a quarterly meeting, which we have been having. And I also made it known there because I had seen Bill Rudnicki on the 16th. I thought, man, it's good to see these folks face to face. So I made it known that I would love to see that happen. Again, no pressure, no judgment, but if we could, there may be a few looks in the room that may be off camera, but just I miss seeing people face to face. And I just wanted to let that be known. Again, no pressure, no judgment, looking to my left, all in grace. If we can make it happen at some point, because those are quarterly, that would be great. The 24th, again, mentioned AMC Tribal Relations. That was the first meeting I have attended for that particular group, and it's my understanding they had thought once, not that long ago, to maybe disband that meeting, which, I'm glad to see that they did not, because it seems like there's a renewed interest for a lot of reasons. We had a guest there that was once, I believe, a Cook County commissioner, now is a tribal chairman. So, just great context to be able to, have dialogue with folks that have been on both sides of whatever issue or whatever situation. In this case, it had to be tribal relations. So in Scott County, we've had it wasn't necessarily county, but it was, a scale initiative of sorts with, I think then Chairman Vig, and a Prior Lake mayor maybe put that together. It was great. 6 hours or whatever it was of just some discussions of where we've been, where we're at, where we're going. That's huge. I mean, anything we can do with more one another's, whatever the one another's happen to be, is a good thing. To be able to, life is better connected, as they say, and I agree with that. And then on the first, I guess was yesterday, was that yesterday? Had a discussion with Lisa Freeze, because I was gone for a few days and the RBs kind of came out, not necessarily late, but just didn't have a lot of time to look through that. So I wanted to talk with her in a little bit more detail about the 27 discussion. And as I mentioned earlier, there were 3 new settlements as it relates to that process, which is always a good thing, in my opinion. With that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Now for my report, I was intending to give quite a detailed, lengthy report, but I've yielded most of my time to the commissioners that have gone before me in their reports. Anyhow, on the 17th, the Transportation Advisory Board, the 22nd, the Scale Services Delivery Committee. Now there, we've been talking about the mobile field force for quite a while. And that started off as a financial request from Scale, and then it was realized by all that Scale doesn't fund that kind of thing. And then it became a policy discussion, and it's probably a great place to discuss policy of the mobile field force, but it's at the Scale Service Delivery Committee. But ultimately, the mobile field force should not be a Scale initiative, or is not a Scale initiative. It's the Scale collaboration, talking, working out things together, yes, but not really a Scale initiative. So it's sort of been kicked out of the service delivery or moved on to outside of Scale, and they're still discussing it, and we don't know exactly what shape it will take, or but if it comes back, it'll come back as a joint powers agreement that we will then have to act on, and the cities will have to act on. The mobile field force involves a couple different things. It involves equipment for an incident. If there's a large scale incident, they have special equipment, special body armor, stuff that's heavier duty than what they would normally have. So it's an equipment issue, and then it's also joint training preparation issue. So that's what that's about. And we'll probably see it back in another form, but not through Scale. 23rd, Chair, Vice Chair, 23rd as well, the Fish Partner Relations Committee. Also that same day, the Unified Transit Management Plan. That's going to be presented at Scale this coming March. So you'll want to hear that there. And then this is the time period to make comments on the plan if you have any. 24th, Greater MSP Board, 25th Scale Prep Meeting. What that is, I'm going to have a monthly meeting with Tracy and Leslie to discuss the Scale Executive Committee and upcoming Scale meetings. And one thing I need from all you is, if you have topics that you think would be great for Scale, please shoot them to me or to Tracy or to Leslie, because we want to be current, we want to be relevant. One topic that I think we got to have with sometime in the next 6 months, it's going to be very controversial, is a pro-con meeting on marijuana legalization. My state representative for Savage put forward a bill to legalize marijuana. And so I would like law enforcement, judges, giving the one side, what has this meant in places like Colorado? What is the problem? What has it caused? And then the other side can make their case too. So, but I think that has to be a Scale meeting at some point in the future. Okay, on the 25th, the Fish Board meeting. One thing I called out there, and I want to call it out here, is the Fish got another large contribution from Minnesota Valley Electric Co-op. And so Fish wants to be very thankful and express thanks to the co-op, to the board, and specifically Tom Wolf, because apart from his work, if he hadn't been a champion for Fish and helped on this, that we wouldn't have got this money for needs in the community for Fish. So we're thankful to the board and the electrical co-op and Tom specifically. And so Fish can be making that known, our thanks, and we are very thankful. The one thing coming up for scale, our next meeting, I mentioned the Unified Transit Management. I think that's part of the same meeting, but we're also having a speaker come, Tom Fisher. He's going to speak on our post-pandemic future. And he gave a presentation that was heard at the Regional Council of Mayors. And a lot of the mayors were strongly recommending. So that's going to be a very interesting topic. What's it going to look like when we get through this pandemic? That's it in my report. It was longer than I thought. So I took back some of the time I yielded to you guys. So we're on to item 8, which is County Administrator Update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple quick updates here. One, the property valuation notices will be out in about 3 weeks. And just a reminder that this really begins that process of the property's value. So if people have some questions, this is the time to approach the county and talk about it. We'll have Michael up here to give a presentation and go over that here at that, I believe, first meeting in April is when we typically do that. But this is the time to review it. It's not in November as budgets and things are being finalized, but the value of the property is looked at now. So just want to get that word out there. You have also received a certificate from the Census Bureau for having the highest region in the nation for self-reporting. And so congrats to Brad, who I think led that complete count committee and the work that was done here. We actually even exceeded the region, but our region was the highest in the nation at about 70%. So job well done there as well. We're also going to hold a work session on March 30th. We weren't real sure of that here a couple weeks ago, but Parks, speaking of Parks, has a couple key things and some timeframes they need to meet. One, we need to move that Spring Lake active waterfront project forward, so we need to review that with you in some of that direction. We also finally have some of these operational costs, right? For what does it look like to maintain a park like Cleary at a very high level, all the way down that what does it take to maintain a Doyle Kennefic in its current state, or a Spring Lake and a Cedar Park, which are in between, which I think drives some of the decisions now on some of these investments moving forward. And then we also need to make some decisions, knowing that Spring Lake is an active investment with our legacy dollars and things for that second year in the biennium. We need to get that into the statute. You know, right now we're talking about, it had been Doyle Kennefic and beginning to do some work there. Is that your continued vision? So I see a rather lengthy Parks work session the morning of that we have set aside for just a work session. There might be also some financial updates as well.
You know, on that, Leslie, if you could, I know you and I have talked about this, and I'm a broken record with this with the Parks folks, is, you know, camper cabins at Cedar Lake. You know, I think we should have that as a discussion, you know, have them. I think, by the way, I think you mentioned having the school district build these cabins and they've done building projects in the past. I think there are some kits sitting around somewhere. In the past, I was aware that maybe they're no longer available, but all ready to build. So anyhow, I'd like to throw that into, if we have Parks come to us in a workshop, I'd like a few minutes on that.
Patty's already been advised that camper cabins will probably come up as well as bison. We continue to have these discussions. You know, part of the camper cabin discussion is we've got to figure out the hurdle for some of the grading, which maybe could be done internally, as well as the bathroom and the shower needs that are required. And so we're doing a rough look at that, so we will have some information. And again, that drives operational costs. But I was going to approach Commissioner Brecky as well and have a discussion. How do we go over and chat with the school district potentially as a partnership with this Academies? Is there something out of their classes that could potentially, with some materials, drive something? So that takes management as well. But yeah, we are actively talking about two issues that I know are a high priority here to the board. And yet, when you look at what's been moved forward with parks, with the minimal investment we make in some ways, it is pretty amazing what we've gotten done. And so we got to keep that up there too, because they are doing some really, really good work and utilizing other people's dollars as we continue to move forward. The next one up is I just wanted to respond. I did ask Cindy to take in contact right away on the issue with the internet. She just got back to me within the last couple minutes here. So they are currently updating their internet site, and it has been down now for 2 days. And also their system does not allow for rotary phone calls. So that was part of the issue. They're getting their system fixed today. So 26 calls to date were dropped. The customers couldn't even leave a message as their software called them out as a robo. That will be fixed today. They're reaching out, Cindy is, to all the clerks and supervisors in the townships to get this list of customers so that then NetWave can reach out to them directly and get the issue resolved. We are hoping, the townships have some of those names and numbers. The outage was almost nil up until the software grade 2 2 days ago, that they had continuous service, but it has caused the issue the past 1.5 days, and they should be up and able to use their internet again as of this morning. So hopefully, Cindy said that they were also going to work on, when they have an outage like this, better communication to folks about that outage. But then it should be up and operable, and they will reach out personally to these folks. So I'm hoping that resolves the issue, Commissioner Wolf.
Okay.
Let's see here.
Commissioner Beard, you still have a rotary phone, don't you?
I got strings in a can.
And then finally, we do have the work session after the board meeting today on the potential of a Department of Corrections grant for some housing initiatives that we have been talking about. And Molly and Pam will present on that. And then just a quick update on this water management discussion that we've been having so that everybody is on the same page. And that's the end of what I have to report.
All right, well, thank you. Item 9 is recess for attorney-client meeting.
Mr. Chair, that will not be necessary.
All right, thank you. Item 10 would be a motion to adjourn. We'll take that in a second. I just want to announce that we're going to be in a workshop after this for Department of Corrections grant and a water management discussion. So that's what's coming up. We'll probably take a little break. We'll find out how long that'll be after we get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. AJ, if you call the roll.
Commissioner Weckman-Brecky?
Aye.
Commissioner Wolf?
Aye.
Commissioner Beard?
Aye.
Commissioner Beard?
Aye.
Commissioner Ulrich?
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.